We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Matt, you want to start off, or you can look through? Do you have any issues with the written portion of the director's report?
I don't have any questions.
I don't have any questions with that. So, Matt, you want to talk us through your oral report?
Yeah, so just a couple of items this week is flu vaccines. We've administered 143 flu vaccines, so we're running down. We're almost exhausted the flu vaccines that we ordered for the year, and bond book inspections are done. So
that's great.
And they're completed. So we're going to be packaging up the books and sending them in next week, beginning of next week.
Great work.
Yeah. Any like big news out of the inspections that you're aware of?
No, everybody was fine. There was no issues with the any of the inspections, to my knowledge. I'm not really supposed to know, so.
Right.
But the animal inspectors didn't say anything to me about it.
Okay, that's good. All right. Moving on to director approved plans.
Yeah. So we have a 3-bedroom repair on a 19,450 square foot lot on 149 Forge Road for a Brandon Camara. It is replacing a cesspool, and it's going to require a 3-bedroom deed restriction. We have a 4-bedroom new construction on 1260 Main Road for Jeffrey Andrade. And that's I'm sorry, it's on a 65,922 square foot lot.
Okay.
And that's utilizing a Quick 4 and a Microfast. And that's it for director approved plans that I have.
Okay. So then I move that we endorse the director approved plans for 149 Forge Road with the condition of a 3-bedroom deed restriction, and for 1260 Main Road with a Microfast system, and we'll need the total nitrogen testing for 2 years.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving right along, we have the minutes of December 5th, 2024. Do you have any comments on the minutes?
No, I do not. So, do you?
No, I don't.
All right, so I move that we approve the minutes for December 5th, 2024.
Second, all in favor?
Aye. And then we have the minutes for December 9th.
Right. Yep. And I'm fine with those.
I am as well. So I move that we approve the minutes for December 9th, 2024.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, barreling along. Let's see, our other business was a proposal to cancel or to skip the December 30th meeting and then just proceed to our regularly scheduled meeting in January, which would be?
January 6th.
January 6th, okay.
Okay, so moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any update from you?
I don't have any.
Oh, it's quite all right.
Well, I mean, I updated about the opioid advisory committee, the first meeting that we've had, and I will be attending. There's going to be some kind of opening at STAR, and I'm going to go in there. You can ask questions, so I'm going to ask about their any involvement with us in Westport around this, or any suggestions that they might have. So.
Great. My only update is that we've been talking about the need to provide guidance to homeowners and the regulated, community, the engineers and the sanitarians about how to implement the statewide as well as our local statewide statute regarding accessory dwelling units. And so Matt and I have been working on that. We've discussed it a little bit at our meeting, and the Massachusetts Environmental Health Association sent around a notification that the Department of Mass DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, is going to issue guidance by February 2nd, which will be really helpful, and that what they are doing is soliciting input or questions, because the guidance is going to be in a frequently asked questions format, which I think actually is probably what we should do if we need to follow up on our own, do a frequently asked questions. So anyway, Matt and I are going to start working at the beginning of the new year with the questions that we would want the DEP guidance to answer. And I think, and of course there's kind of particular significance for us because we're one of a group of communities that, requires nitrogen reducing systems in certain circumstances, and so we have to clarify how that will apply or not apply to new accessory dwelling units. So that will be really helpful, and then we'll know how to proceed consistently with how those are being implemented, because as the statute gains momentum, we're going to see more of those, of course. So that's that. All right. And now, as scheduled, Donna's going to sing Christmas carols for the next 20 minutes, and
Well,
I've been looking forward to that.
I almost wore my
last 2
sweater that
weeks.
has bells on it, and I could have done jingle bells.
All right, so go ahead.
So we may want to consider scheduling a working meeting for the FAQs
Yeah,
and, develop some and get them submitted to DEP.
yeah, definitely, yeah. Well, I thought, kind of because idle hands kind of thing, that while we have some holiday time here, that I would work on that and then send you something, and then we could look at that for the working meeting. Because Matt and I have exchanged kind of a draft when it was written, not as FAQs but more of guidance, which kind of set out the scenarios, what we thought the answers should be, as how they're regulated in background. Because now we have to kind of, it's like Jeopardy. Now we have before we were giving the answers, now we have to formulate the questions for DEP. So we kind of have to work it backwards, and I think, because we've made the progress that we've made so far, I don't think that will be that hard to do. But I know that they're, kind of focused on the accessory dwelling unit pieces, but I think we also want to talk just generally about this issue of increasing bedrooms as it relates to design capacity, even though I think DEP considers the accessory dwelling units as a different, like a different breed. It's not exactly the same thing, so we need to kind of figure that, draw attention to that, and then see if they can clearly, parse that out for us. And then there's another whole issue of, what does compliance mean for systems that may be, non-conforming systems, and how that works. Even if they have good design capacity, maybe what they have in the ground now doesn't conform, and so just giving some clarity about that too. So anyway, I think we've identified the issues that we really want some clarity on. I think we just have to urge DEP to maybe expand the scope a little bit of what they might be thinking, what the questions and what the answers are needed, basically, so.
Didn't you mention at one of the meetings about us trying to coordinate, make sure we're on the same page with, is it the building department?
Yes, well, because the building department, this is more about adding, I was going to say just about adding bedrooms, but I think it maybe applies to both, but they didn't really distinguish between the situations where there is excess design capacity in the system. So their message was, if you add a bedroom to your house, then you have to decommission a bedroom. So whereas I think we were in the place of saying, well, if you have if your system is designed for 3 bedrooms, but you only built 2 bedrooms, then you can add a bedroom, at least looking through the Title V lens. And I don't think, and it's not a criticism of it, because it's not apparent, to people who are not, soaked in this stuff, that there's a difference. So, but I think what will come out of this particularly is that we'll have a unified, message, or that the building department can just refer, or when we put the frequently asked questions, can just have the same link on their page as we'll have on ours when it's finally done.
Right, yeah.
So, so.
I could give you an update on the transfer station, if you'd like.
That would be great.
So Tim's last day is the 31st. We've posted that the select board approved the new position, which is the transfer station foreman. It's been posted in-house and outside at the same time. We've got a couple resumes that came in from the outside, and the union posting will come down on tomorrow, actually, at noontime. So then I can start visiting the resumes that are coming in from the outside.
Oh, good.
Where did you post the position?
Outside?
Yeah,
So the town posts everything through Indeed.
okay.
If we have somebody and we can start them right away on January 9th, because I have to find the person, have the select board appoint them at their meeting on January 6th. I could start the person on the 9th. That's going to leave us like a 3-day gap without a driver. So my thought process there is to possibly approach the highway department and see if they can assist for those 3 days. If not, we'll have to go to the outside and get contractors to just keep us going for those 3 days. So that's, hopefully, if everything goes well, it'll only be 3 days that we're down without a driver.
That's good.
Yeah. But we'll just see how the timing of it all goes.
Right.
Okay, so that was for that, and then we had some earmarked money that came through from Senator Roderick's office through NDP for the transfer station improvements.
Oh,
It was $75,000, and went down there a few times trying to figure out how we could do some improvements, and I, come up with a plan. I haven't got it sketched out or anything for the board yet, but I will get it all drawn out and share it with the board, what my idea is on how we can use that money to improve the transfer station.
Excellent.
When did we find out about that?
A couple weeks back.
Okay.
I mean, we've been talking about, Jim, the town administrator, has been talking about it, but it finally came through officially a couple weeks back. So.
And is it kind of brick and mortar kinds of things that the money, or that the grant or the allocation is really focused on, or is it other kinds of improvements?
Well, that was one of my questions, because it didn't really come with a book of what we can use the money for.
Yeah, okay.
So so it'll be some brick and mortar type improvements, that, for sure.
Right.
But I have questions on whether or not, because of the improvements I have in mind, we're gonna need a few more dumpsters.
Oh,
So can
right.
we use the money to purchase dumpsters for that
Yeah,
and,
right.
and some other things, so,
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
What are the other things you're
Right.
thinking about to use the, I mean, for the improvements? Like, what would you like to see happen down at the transfer station, other than 2 new?
Well, it's more than the
dumpsters?
containers, it's, so we're gonna expand. So when you pull in, you can see that there's dumpsters right in front of you, right? You got a trash, metal, glass. And then it kind of goes this way, the wall goes off that way.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna expand that part of the wall out, and we're gonna move the glass dumpster into that position, going this way along the wall, bump down the metal, and then put another trash dumpster in, so you'll have 2 trash available, because we're just getting so much business with trash, it'll be good to have 2 containers available. And then we're gonna buy another trash container for a backup, so when one gets full, somebody can pull the full one out, put the empty one in, and we can empty the full one. So we'll always have a rotating number of dumpsters, so we shouldn't get, in theory, shouldn't get so jammed up where we
Right.
have to
Yeah.
shut down a service.
Yeah.
So if you do all those improvements, do you have an idea of what that's gonna cost? You're saying
Well, I'm
it's
waiting for
gonna
the
make
quotes
cost.
to come back.
Okay.
So we have to, extend the wall, we have to do some paving, we have to do some regrading. I mean, it adds up quick. If I had to guess, we're already, just from those improvements alone, probably in the 50 grand range. But I don't know until I get the quotes back, just a guess.
Just within the transfer station, but just kind of a different topic, which is, so how have the Boy Scouts, fared well at their new location, or is that, or has their, has their dropped off?
So I don't know, I haven't received any feedback
Okay.
on that. The only feedback that I received is some people are leaving stuff down there that shouldn't be there.
Ah, I see. Uh-huh.
But, that's inevitable.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Right,
They can either just bring it up themselves or, get one of the attendants will come down and grab
right,
it.
right.
I don't know, if there's been a drop off or not.
Yeah,
Because people are going in. I see people go
Yeah.
in, they still donate. I just don't know
Right.
to what degree.
right.
They did
Well-
put something on Facebook, and they showed a picture of some of the things people were leaving that they shouldn't be leaving.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it was really a problem, even though I don't think they would blame us for it. You'd probably have heard about it if it wasn't working out for them as we all kind of hoped and planned it would. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a no news is good news, really, I think.
I think we expected there was going to be a drop off just until
Right.
people got used to the new
Yeah,
flow.
yeah,
But I haven't really heard.
yeah. Well, that's good.
Inching closer to 4:30.
Yes, yeah, we're at 4:20. I don't know if this is, just trying to look at the, yeah, so I mean, this is not one where the local upgrade approvals have any abutters, right?
The 4:30 hearing do, yes.
Yes.
Oh, they do? Okay. All right. Okay.
I'm just gonna ask you, Matt, what are some of the priorities you see for the Board of Health? Because I know that we're gonna be having a meeting to talk about setting some priorities from the board's perspective. But I wonder from your perspective, what you see are the things for us to focus on, or priorities that you might have for the new year.
Really haven't thought about it, but I have a little bit. But staffing continues to be a concern. I think we're very understaffed. Our workload versus our staff ratio the math doesn't work out. I did ask for the administrator if I could add in a half-time clerk for FY26, but it was pretty much a no. A couple reasons, just need somebody to help out with some of the data entry, some of the oddball things that we collect permits on that are very time-consuming for Nancy. you know, the food permits and the temporary food permits. Pat does a good job, but it kind of keeps her busy. And then the counter and the phones, it's just, you know, it can be very overwhelming at times. Not to mention, it might not be a bad idea to kind of get somebody in and train them, just in case, you know, if Pat decided to retire someday, then we'd have somebody that could backfill possibly the position, have some knowledge of how the system works in the office. I think would be a good thing, but I get it, the overall budget isn't great, so it's hard to get these positions approved.
Well, the other thing that I think would fit into that is, you know, our upgrade of the well regulations. And so, and I think, you know, we could work on that during the first half of 2025. Because we made some progress, but have run into the complexity of the standards, you know, for water quality testing and water quantity assessment, that I think we need to get more input from experts. But I think, you know, that's something that we could accomplish, you know, during the first quarter of the new year.
One of the other things I thought about as a priority is I'd like to see some of our older regulations get, you know, revised, updated to be more in tune with 2025. You know, there's some of them are pretty old and times have changed, and I just think they need to be updated, or maybe even some of them eliminated altogether and kind of re-brought back into the fold in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of one off the top of your head that you're thinking
Some of the ones, I don't know, maybe the large capacity well regulation, the sanitary dog regulation, the shellfish stockpiling regulation, they're very old. Definitely the stormwater regulation. I think that we need to take a hard look at that and make it a little bit more, scale it back potentially a little bit. Still keep it, but kind of, you know, it's very comprehensive and it's very costly to the people who have to put together these stormwater regulations for new construction.
Yeah. Well, we've been trying to kind of coordinate for a few years around how the wetlands program regulates stormwater, how the planning board regulates stormwater in terms of, you know, subdivisions. And then how we regulate stormwater for oftentimes like single-family homes. And then DEP also has draft regulations out there that are looking at climate change and are ramping up the standards for how you address anticipated climate change in terms of storm severity, green management, you know, kind of greening stormwater management controls more, and but so again, you really need some expertise in that for us, I think, to really go back and, if we could get a unified approach, figure out how to do it. But it is, sitting on the Conservation Commission, one of the most frequent things that we hear where someone is developing property, particularly if it's commercial related, but even, you know, larger housing projects, you know, even if it's a single family home, that abutters come in and being concerned about what's going to happen with the stormwater when they put in this driveway, you know, because their basements are already flooding, those kinds of things. And so I think it's helpful, because the wetlands regulations don't really regulate single-family homes. But to have the Board of Health, through its stormwater regulations, you know, be able to say to abutters, well, they're gonna have to show how they're gonna manage stormwater, even if it's not a big subdivision. And so I don't know, it tends to make better neighbors of
There was just something
people.
about that, wasn't there, about a business that wanted to expand, and then the neighbors who were in a residential
Yeah,
area.
yeah, and it's
concerned about
legitimate, yeah,
stormwater.
and it's legitimate. And so it is like, how do you reconcile someone who wants to use their property in a reasonable way, but neighbors who don't want their bad situation exacerbated by it? But I don't disagree with Matt that, you know, how the current regulation goes about doing that is necessarily the best or the most efficient or cost-effective tool to do that, you know, because it's not rocket science to control stormwater, and maybe you don't need all the analytical work just to say, you know, capture all the rainwater for your roof. You know, when you have a lot of impervious surface, you have to, you know, manage the stormwater so it's infiltrated, you know, back into the ground, which is, you know, so, okay.
A lot of fun stuff to do in 2025.
Are we close enough?
I think so.
Okay, so
Or
it's like 427.
4:27?
Yep.
Think we're close enough, Mark? You're
I
gonna,
think we're close enough.
okay.
I did have one about a butter notice, but I don't think one about it is here.
Okay.
Another one of the properties with us tonight also, this afternoon. Just a green card.
Thank you.
Message. Stormwater, my favorite topic.
I know.
Maybe we should get your input. It's a favorite topic.
You were targeting where my peeves have been associated with the single-family residence versus commercial activity. And if you get pushed to stormwater DEP style, it appears to clients especially.
Yeah.
What did you just do where a retention system is larger than a septic system? You know, so.
Yeah, yeah.
And the regulations of setback, vertical setback to water table is also a challenge. So when I get overwhelmed, I punt on those and get people with more expertise than me. It's Mark Roderick's Analysis and Design Engineering. I'm here for local upgrade approval request for a septic system repair at 155 Plymouth Boulevard for Service Realty 2 LLC over here on South Watuppa Pond. It's a small lot, under 13,000 square feet, currently served by a cesspool, so the elimination of the cesspool is critical at this point and required. And what I've developed here, which is also going to be going through conservation in the upcoming meeting, I believe that's the 7th of January coming up, so that's on the agenda for that hearing. I'm putting a bottomless sand filter in, pre-treated with a 2-compartment 1,500-gallon tank in the Advantex AX20 RT system. That's on the east side of the existing dwelling. Off to the west is the pond, South Watuppa Pond, where we've located the bottomless sand filter, giving us, I believe, still the smallest footprint possible for this lot. The waivers are primarily associated with setbacks to property line. So I'll go through that very quickly, see what we've got, and the offset to the wetland resource area. The BSF, the bottomless sand filter, is per my notes. That one is, I believe the number I have is approximately 27 feet from the high water elevation of the pond versus the 50 that we're searching for. Hence, brings me into a notice of intent with conservation. It's gonna require some architectural work. There's an existing deck that portions thereof, or perhaps even the whole thing, that's the owner's decision, needs to be displaced and replaced with the filter. The tanks go into the front, if you will, and that is a limiting factor in terms of space available, given the fact that we've got an elevated concrete driveway / parking area to the east, and the setbacks of wells, which are shown on the plan throughout the siting, also left me some constraints to try to maintain 50 feet to wells for the tankage and 100 feet for the proposed bottomless sand filter. We have achieved that with the plan, so the emphasis here was to try to get the 50 and 100 setbacks, and that's been achieved, but there's not a whole lot of real estate to work with to achieve that. The other waivers that I'm looking for, again, are associated with property lines. I point out that the land has been surveyed by a professional land surveyor, and I've accompanied his stamp on the plans as well, given the setbacks that I'm about to convey. The distance of the Advantex to the southern property line is 3.5 feet versus 10. The setback of the bottomless sand filter to the southerly property line is 5.4 versus 10. Setback distance of the Advantex to the crawl space is 8.9 feet versus 10 feet. BSF to the crawl space is 5.5 feet versus 10 feet. Setback distance of the bottomless sand filter to the surface water, as I said, is 27 versus 50. The other points that I have here for local waivers is the sieve analysis was performed per DEP guidance, a requirement for, generally speaking, for the design of a bottomless sand filter. And lastly, the requirement of the separation distance of the inlet and outlet tees of the tank and the Advantex to the water table are reduced to 1.4 inches approximately versus the 12 they're looking for. So I was able to achieve at least one, but again, I've got an inch to spare. I'll defer.
Hmm?
That's it.
Good. Nope, not, I don't have anything. It's pretty thorough, and I've reviewed these a few times, and everything looks good.
I don't have comments, so if you
I
want
was
to.
just looking at the well is not on their property? Is it a
That is
shared well?
correct. Yes, it is. Well, it's a standalone well, but it's not located on the property.
Okay.
That is correct.
I don't have any questions.
Do you want me to do it? You want to do it?
I'll try.
Okay.
I think you'll succeed.
All right, so I move that we approve the plans for 155 Plymouth Boulevard, owned by Frazier's Realty, Frazaris Realty, the Second Estate. Frazaris, okay. Dated 11/28/24. With the variances as stated in the plan, but I'll just basically summarize: distance from the system to the south property line at 3.5 feet versus 10 required. Distance between the bottomless sand filter to the south property line, 5.4 feet versus 10 feet. Distance between the system and the crawl space, 8.9 feet versus 10 feet required. Distance between the bottomless sand filter to the crawl space, 5.5 feet versus 10 required. Distance from the bottomless sand filter to the surface water, now this plus or minus 27 feet, where 50 is required. And sieve analysis and separation of the inlet and outlet tees, 1.4 inches versus 12 inches required, with the following conditions: a 3-bedroom deed restriction, hold harmless agreement, Concom review, and 2 years of total nitrogen testing. Is there anything else I forgot?
That seems right to me, so I will second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Same to you.
be Happy New Year before you see us again.
We will. And I see you just after the new year.
Yeah, all right.
Merry Christmas, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Where we go? Yeah,
I don't think he's expecting any abutters,
yeah.
so you could probably move him up if you wanted to.
Yeah, sure. All right, so why don't we convene the hearing for 1636 Drift Road, 1336W Drift Road. Good afternoon.
Okay, I'm here for Diane Malore, 1636 W Drift Road, which is a small cottage on the river. She owned the property across the street, originally bought a cottage, and put a good-sized house on that property. Upgraded the septic system, the whole bit. She sold that house, and she still owns the cottage. But the cottage that she owns on the riverside is tied into the well on the opposite side. So she wants to drill her own well. I did a plan and I showed that the well is 100 feet away from all septic systems. I did the 3 plans, 3 properties all around her, and I showed that on the sketch that I made, the drawing that I made, and 100 feet away. Her own septic system is about 88 feet away. The well, as I drew it, located it, it's about 55 feet to the back side of the house. And it's a backwards L, so there's a big deck in the back, maybe 16 feet out, along with that L portion. So the system would have to go approximately, probably 75 feet away from the well. Well, I gotta be careful of the river, so I don't think I get 100 either way, but I do know the well would be 100 feet away from all systems around it, and probably around 75 feet, I think, from the proposed system for this property. There's no plans on it, but I checked, there's nothing.
It looks like on here you have, it's, the new well will be 88 feet from the leach field?
From the existing leach field. But I'm considering that if it had to be replaced, you might end up being 75. So you're over 50 feet, less than 100. I can't get 100 feet, I'll be too close to the river's edge, less than 50 feet. So she needs to get off that well that's in the house that she sold, rather than have a shared well. I guess that was a condition of her sale.
So I've talked to Matt about this, and I think that the path that you end up taking, or that comes out of the discussion, kind of depends upon the sequence of it, because if you had kind of made the determination that you would want to upgrade the system, then I think the path that you've indicated of getting a local, upgrade waiver would be the pathway to do it.
Right.
But if you first start with the well,
Yeah.
then you're in the well permitting pathway.
Right.
And the way that I see it is because the Title V says you can't put a well, construct or install a new well within 100 feet of an existing system, that you would then need to go with a full variance route.
Well, I think that's what I'm asking for.
Okay.
Just trying to be upfront and honest with you. Saying the leaching field isn't, I can't say it's failed.
Right.
It's been there
So,
for years. So
Right.
well within 100 feet of the
Right.
leaching field.
right.
That's the variance that I'm asking for.
Yeah. Okay.
You put them a lot closer than that.
Right. I
A
know.
replacement well.
Yeah. Well, and so I think what we were thinking that, so, so this is by way of it, kind of advice in the sense of, I think what I would want to see if you had formally made the variance application would be to have a Title V inspection so that we would know what, you know, whether or not it was a failed system, for example, because you've kind of got the standard of, you know, meeting the equivalent environmental protection. So I think, you know, so that would be a first step. And then, you know, and I don't know whether the well is upgraded or downgraded, but any of that information as to, okay, so that's a good thing. Yeah, so then, you know, putting that together in your application, you know, with a, you know, with a,
The way I figured it.
and I think we'd be favorably disposed to that, because I think it's, you know, better to have the well on the site than have a shared well.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And the
so I
thing
agree,
is,
I think I agree with that, but just kind of,
If you're going to do a Title V upgrade, the proposed well would be part of that variance procedure.
right,
You're gonna drill the well and see what the water quality is. We are down next to the river, there are several wells all around it.
yeah,
But make sure that you've got a good water supply, that the nitrates are low, coliform is not present. So why can't you just drill the well first, make sure you got good quality, and then go about the business of repairing the septic?
I think that's an okay way to do it, but just almost, like from a purely administrative part of it, it's like, I'm gonna apply for a well permit, or I'm gonna provide for a septic system permit, and then when you go with the well permit route, which I'm not disputing your logic,
Yeah.
then there's just different criteria that, and it, you know, a different, set of standards you have to look at, and I think the most important thing would be to have maybe in both cases, you know, to have a Title V inspection.
Well, you can condition the well permit,
Yeah.
drill the well, and just request a Title V inspection be done.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, I mean, right, I agree. I mean, you could, along with the application for the permit, then you could also request a variance to install it. And I think what we're saying is that that should, and if you accompany that right with a Title V inspection, you know, seems to be better than us trying to get it approved, and as a condition of approval, we're doing a Title V, because then we won't know what the condition is before we approve it. I mean, you know, so, because then that's what I think, because, anyway.
I'm just saying that if you let the well be drilled and then condition it upon a Title V inspection being done, I doubt that it's gonna pass.
Right,
It's just,
Right.
it's just an event. All three around here have been,
Right.
don't even listen to this thing.
well, I guess what we could do, and I haven't, you know, I mean, we have to see at the time, and, you know, and Tanya's not here also, but, so, if we did it that way, we would have to condition the permit on having that is the well drilling permit, to condition upon having a Title V inspection that did not, that established that the well was not, that the system was not in failure.
All right, let's assume,
That, you know, because otherwise, it's not just doing the inspection, it's like, what's the results of the inspection?
well, let's just assume that the system's gonna fail,
Oh, okay,
okay? And then it's gonna be upgraded, but in the meantime, if the system fails, and it's not a public health threat, there's no one even living in the house. So, she's got 2 years to upgrade that septic system, but at least she can get off that other well and begin the procedure. That's her choice,
right.
that's her choice. But I
Yeah.
can't put the well any other place than where I put it.
No, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
You've seen the plan, right?
Yeah, you got it
Yeah.
right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I should.
well, I don't, I mean, I have something more to say, but I would, you know.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, I think that what you, I mean, I do understand kind of the practical logic of what you're saying. I
Right.
think that, but in order, so, you know, Title V, the provision says it's a violation of Title V to put a septic system, put a new well within 100 feet. And the way to get around that or to address that is through the variance.
I'd like to see that.
And so it's the last point, I think, is that, and then the variance says, in order to get a variance, you have to demonstrate equivalent environmental protection. And I think what we're reaching for is the way that you would meet that standard is to come back with an inspection that shows that the system hasn't failed. If not, then what you're asking the board to do is approve the installation of the well, even though there's a failed system there. And I have just trouble reconciling that outcome with what the variance standard is, because you're not getting equivalent environmental protection, you know, by doing that. And you won't know for, I mean, the problem is you really won't know for a while whether this newly drilled well is, you know, drawing, I mean, how would you make the health determination? Because you've got a brand new well. It's not like you can test the well, which happens in other situations where you can know, okay, you know, the well is less than, the existing well is less than 100 feet, and guess what? Your water quality's fine. Here, we don't know. So it seems like the choice could be avoid, you know, go ahead and just.
Let's just upgrade the system.
Exactly.
I know what you're trying to get at.
Yeah, I'm not pushing you that way.
Title V
I'm not pushing you that
Title
way.
V doesn't say that you have to put a well 100 feet away from the system under grandfathered lot conditions. We put wells closer than 100 feet many, many times.
Yeah.
The
Well-
shallow well goes dry, gets polluted. Well, we're gonna drill an artesian well right here. And it gets done. It's been done for years. Look at Smalls Village.
Well, I'm
50
saying this. I think that there is a difference between. I think there's a difference between replacing a well, in which I think that you would. I think what we would say, or what I would say, if it's in that situation, you know, we need to do. You know, test the well and show us what it is.
Right.
And then we'd say, okay, well, sure, you can put a well next to that because blah, blah, blah. Here you don't have that. You know what I mean?
I gotta start somewhere.
Well, no, so, and all I'm saying is a place to start is to do a, you know, is to get a Title V inspection. If you really think that the system has failed, then.
Well, I shouldn't say that, but my best guess. But I can't,
Yeah, yeah.
You've gotta give my client the ability or the right to do an examination. I'm not gonna do it, get a Title V inspector, even though I am one.
Right, no, exactly, you would, yeah. I mean, because
I understand.
you know what I mean? Because then, you know, I mean, you get, you know, then someone comes in and say, well, yeah, I want to put the well 50 feet from the existing system. And, you know, you said,
The cesspool or the cesspool.
or, yeah, exactly, you don't know, you know.
It's in the back.
Yeah, you know, or, yeah, exactly, it's a non-conforming system.
My
mean,
location to the back of the house is 55 feet. So
Yeah.
I know the system's gonna be more than that.
yeah,
I assume because of the location of the river, I'd have to be probably 75 feet, even though I'm about 88 feet now.
yeah,
So what I would like you to do is to Board of Health, write a letter to Diane Malone, the owner,
okay,
and tell her that you'd like a Title V inspection before approving the well.
Okay,
And if it comes back in failure, then she has the right to, she's got 2 years to upgrade it, and then she can decide what she wants to do.
okay,
No question, sooner or later it's gonna be.
okay, all right.
But I can't speak for her. She's not even around, I mean, she's.
Okay.
In Florida.
Okay,
Annie, how big is this lot?
Huh?
How big is the lot? I'm trying to.
It's not very big. They put it on the plan?
I don't.
I don't think
I don't
so.
think so.
I mean, the other thing about the plan and why we thought the inspection made sense is that you don't show where, and it's not a criticism, but it doesn't show where the septic tank is.
I don't know where it is.
I know, that's what another
I know
reason.
it's not where the well's going.
Yeah, you know, and so the way that the well, you know, the prohibition against citing the well doesn't, you know, doesn't say only the 100 feet. It says
50
it
feet
has.
from the tank.
It says it has to be both. You know, it has to be done in compliance. So that's the other thing that we'd get out of it. So
But the house to the from the well stake to the house is 35 feet. The house is 20 feet on the north side, the width. So that's 55 feet, and the system's behind that. So I know that the system, if there's a tank there, it's beyond 50 feet.
okay, well okay.
I know
So
it's not where I'm.
okay,
I'm talking to her caretaker,
okay.
who's
So
been working on the
okay.
properties for a long time.
Okay, so I guess, so what you're asking is that we would send a letter to the effect of, you know, that, you know, we understand that you are seeking to put a new well in on the property prior to us considering an application for that. We want you to get a Title V inspection of the property to determine what the status of the existing septic system is.
And then if it does fail, give her the 2 years to update it, update it, to install it.
So will the board?
Oh, well,
What was I
yeah.
gonna say?
Well, then, let's, that's, I wouldn't agree to put that in the letter. Let's see what let's see what the inspection says, and then figure it out, because it still goes back to, if it is a failed system, then you would be coming in and saying, yeah, or if I understand you, let me sink the well now, and then she would have 2 years in order to upgrade the system.
Right.
And I don't want to necessarily say I agree to that.
Well,
We have to think about it.
She's not asking for it, I'm just
I
trying
know.
to be reasonable and give her options. I'm sure she wants to do it, she's not a.
Right. I mean, if it's failed, then the easiest way to do it, right, would be to go through a local upgrade approval. Then you don't I mean, the regulation, right, gives you gives you approval
I know that.
to do it. And then we could say, you know, do 2 years of well
I'm
testing.
18 months
or 3 years.
behind, so give me 2 years.
You're too busy,
Okay.
you're never gonna be able to retire.
No.
Okay,
If you could send that letter to her, I will talk to
okay,
the gentleman who I've been dealing with. I know Diane, I did the whole thing across the street for her.
yeah.
And then he can give her that information, and then you send her a letter, that way she gets it directly from the board.
Okay, are you okay with that, Matt?
I'm fine. I just, because of the schedules this week, I probably wouldn't be able to get to that till Monday.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll call her.
okay.
We'll talk to her, and I just want the board to send her a letter directly, so it's not something I'm dreaming up,
Mhm.
Okay, all right,
because I got plenty to do, I don't
I
need.
agree.
okay,
I agree.
Okay?
all right, very good.
All right,
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you,
Thanks, Lynn.
thanks.
Have a Merry Christmas, guys.
You too, and a Happy New Year.
I'm much happier than you. No, it's good, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, sure.
Oh, look at that, good timing. Well, maybe you're out there anyway. Okay. All right, so now we are ready to consider the proposal for 1009 Drift Road to resolve the location of the septic system for an upgrade.
I hope this is a very simple thing. Basically, this is a design plan. It was a repair for 1009, Sean Leach, Northeast Engineers. A design plan for 1009, which met all the requirements for a repair, including adequate leaching field with an IA leaching field. What had happened essentially was when the installer put it in, he put it about a foot too close to the neighbor's well. For whatever reason, I'm not sure why, and everything else is fine. I think part of the reason is I think he was looking at the on-site well, which is more than 100 feet away, than he was the actual well itself, the well next door, which is closer. So we approached the neighbor, William Gesner. He has signed off on the fact that it's 99 feet, and he has requested and consented to not having to have his well tested, even though it's usually a condition for a leaching field that's too close, less than 100 feet to a well. You know, it's a matter of semantics, I think. I think 199 feet makes a huge difference, but we need to have a request for a certificate of compliance to meet the 99 foot to the existing well for the abutter. Long and short, it's basically.
Okay, so I think that given the relatively short distance, you know, or the difference between compliance and non-compliance, and I think what would be involved cost-wise and disruption-wise to actually, you know, trying to move this a foot. I'm inclined to allow this. This is kind of like a case in first impression. I've never had one where someone was asking for, but I'm just saying. So I'm, you know, so we have to kind of figure out what to do with it. And so, right. Yeah, and so, and the, and so I think the pieces of this that we would want, and I've talked to Matt about it, you know, is a hold harmless agreement for, you know, from the applicant. I also would like to get it from the abutter, if that's possible.
I think it is.
Okay.
I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah.
I've discussed
Okay.
it with him. They've already signed a hold harmless and a deed restriction for the property.
Okay.
And they're ready to
Right.
record it subject to this vote tonight.
Okay, right. And a 3-bedroom, right, the 3-bedroom deed restriction.
Okay.
And I think doing that conditioned on the approval of doing that, getting conditioned on a certificate of compliance being filed by the engineer. And I think we would then treat it as a local upgrade approval, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
But not, yeah, okay.
yes, technically it's within the sand of the overdig. That's what the problem is here.
Uh-huh.
And you know, and unfortunately, it is what it is, and the facts are the facts. So we're not trying to hide anything, but it is what it is.
Okay, and there's, okay, so, so generally you're okay with that? No, okay, so.
Yeah, I had wanted a hold harmless as well.
Yeah, well, so we'll do it as we would, as if it was, so, well, I would say, you know, I'd want to, I guess what we're really doing here is approving a,
I think it's a variance for.
Post-install.
yeah, but, right, you know, I mean, so it's not actually I guess we're moving to approve the plan, uh, the certificate of compliance for for the property at 1009 Drift Road, owned by Yvonne and Emily Weibel. The plan, the draft COC, so to speak, is undated, and it would be, if we,
I mean, this is the actual as-built, what was built. I mean, elevation-wise, it's all in compliance and everything's fine.
Okay.
It's just this one dimensional.
and so we would approve it under our local upgrade approval authority to reduce the setback of the site well from 100 feet to 99 feet, from 99 feet, with a hold harmless agreement from both the owner and the abutter at 1017 Drift Road. Are we then going to look for 3 years of well testing, which is normally what we would do, or not?
For the abutter who doesn't want his well tested?
Yeah, so we decided not to do, we couldn't
Yeah.
compel that.
Yeah.
That's why we're getting the hold harmless,
Right.
so we won't do that. And also, this is conditioned, the approval is conditioned upon obtaining a certificate of compliance issued in conformance with Title V.
Did you just make that motion?
I just made that motion.
Okay. And I second that. Did you get that, Bob?
Just the last part of Title V.
Oh, so we wanted to have it's conditioned upon the submission of a certificate of compliance executed in accordance with Title V.
So we would pass in the as-built plan and sign the certificate of compliance based on the variance you just gave for
Right.
99 feet.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay. And, right, with the hold harmless okay, so, motion's been made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right.
Aye.
If a chance, I have a question.
Yes, oh, yes, I heard you were gonna have a question.
A month ago, you approved a shared system for 2038, 2040 Main Road. And when we were looking at the financial mechanism
Right,
we're looking at,
right,
I brought up a suggestion to Nancy that maybe there should be options in place already so that it'd be easier for you to approve the financial mechanism rather than, somebody suggesting something and you looking into whether this is adequate or that type
Right.
of thing,
yeah,
It really doesn't matter, to the applicant. It's just a matter of their attorney saying, what would you like to see?
right, right,
I mean, typically, a lot of the share systems are usually multiple people share systems or
Right.
multiple owners. In this case, it's two properties with a common ownership or a common thought process. And the question would be, what would you like to see?
yeah,
We've got the documents all ready to go for the easement and hold harmless and everything else. We're just looking to see what do you need for a financial mechanism that's required as part of the easement.
okay. So, at least when I went back and looked at it, and looked at the definition of owner and facility definition, and then what, the shared system, it seemed to be saying to me, that a facility is, is, the land and all the buildings upon it owned by a single owner. And that owner is defined in terms, includes a trust. And what I understand it is that each of these are owned by a separate trust, but the trustees is the same for
Right.
both, which was then leading me to think that this wasn't, that we could treat this not as a shared system, but, as a system serving a single facility, in a sense. It has to be abutting property, so you have two properties side by side, trustees are the same, and that a single system is serving both properties, but almost as if you remove the property line per se, that you would treat it as a single system because it's owned by the same people. And so if we wanted to go down that path, then I think the first step would be to submit the trust documents, and so that we could look at that and see, as a way of kind of confirming, yes.
We don't have a problem as a shared system, which kind of cleans it up.
Okay, all right.
We don't have
Okay.
a problem, because
Okay,
rather than get into semantics and all that,
Okay, all
I
right,
think it's easier,
okay.
we looked at it as,
Okay.
it's easier to say it's a shared system.
Right.
Because at some point, it may be a shared system, they may sell one
Right.
of the properties or
Right.
change hands or whatever.
okay.
The issue would be, what do we do for financial
Yeah.
business?
So when we looked at that issue before, in the context of a larger development, it was a combination of a set aside for the regular operation and maintenance, and then also putting a what's the right word, like an anticipation of replacing significant components of the system, and then trying to do, forgetting the the terminology, like where you kind of you mathematically like go back in time and you say, okay, well this, if it's going to be, if we assumed a life expectancy of 20 years or something, or 25 years, then you'd kind of go back and say, okay, well, in order to reach that amount, you build in some inflation factor, and okay, they have to contribute, every year into this kind of thing. So we could share with you, what we put together in this other context, and just take a look at that.
Because I was thinking, because usually when you talk shared systems, like it's a larger facility or a larger amount or anything
Right.
like this in this case. Because I was thinking you could do both, and this is just a suggestion, a financial part of it, but also a recorded part of it, similar to what the planning board requires for a common driveway, where there's an association, whoever owns 2038, whoever is part of the association is required to kick in X amount of dollars per year.
Right, exactly.
Regardless, and then
Yes.
it's on the deed, and then the person
Right,
buying the
that's
property.
how you do it. The
Yeah.
question is, what's the dollar amount?
Yeah.
And so that's what you have to, so that's what we, so that's, what we came up with. And
But who administers? I mean, at the end of the day, 10 years from now, when none of us are
well,
sitting
yeah,
here.
yeah. Well, it's, well, I think this is where part of the financial assurance, not, it would be, on the, like, if this was, let's call it a condominium association, and it had like a board of trustees, and it was their responsibility, and the documents setting this up put the responsibility on them to, kind of set it aside and collect that money and put it into a dedicated account that would, accumulate. I mean, probably, I don't expect, like, this is this just having a standard Title V system?
No, it's got a denitrification.
Okay, so, I don't know, it might be that you would say, okay, I'm gonna put in, 5 years of O&M, and every third year, I'm gonna bring it up to 5 years. So that,
That's
and then,
typical what the planning board does for their homeowners
Yeah,
association.
right,
They do,
right.
okay, we
Right.
knew couldn't the X amount. 'Cause
yeah,
that's, the first 5 years, you're probably not gonna have a problem, and then
Yeah.
that's after that things start
yeah.
going wonky.
Well, my question is, it sounds like a legal issue, not a Board of Health issue.
Well, we're supposed to approve what it is. I think part of our involvement is from the technical point of view, what activities would we want financial assurance for, and then putting a price tag on that. So that'd be like a Board of Health thing, and then it would, similarly from a cost point of view, it would be, okay, what happens if you had to replace the D-Night system 20 years from now?
Right.
And then you would say, okay, well, what would this cost 20 years from now? Well, you build in some, so we ended up having to do that. I don't know who else does it, but I think Title V says we're supposed to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come up with the
All right.
number.
Your responsibility is to assure there's a financial mechanism.
Right,
And I'm not
Yeah.
sure, if the DEP's kind of like, okay, it's your problem.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And basically,
And-
you can call for whatever you
Yeah,
want.
and there's some forms, I think that there's,
Yeah, there's a bunch of forms and
there's
templates.
a
Yeah,
special
there's-
forms that are attached to Title V, so,
Yeah.
I do remember that we had to, that was an issue for a large development
right,
where it was a shared system, and that was, and I know that we did talk about, and you worked on that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if it, in this circumstance where it was
So you have-
two properties.
Yeah, you have two properties shared.
Owned by the same person,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
the same trust.
But
Right.
different trusting and.
Oh, same.
It's a
yeah.
weird
I
thing,
mean,
but
it's,
We
right.
felt that we could just turn it as a shared system, that way simplify it,
Right.
because someday down the road, it may be two different owners.
right, and so I think that is I think that's why it's worth investing some time in it, because we wouldn't necessarily be tracking that if a transfer came up.
That's why I think a document to be recorded,
Yeah,
as part of
Right.
the grant of easement.
right,
A homeowner association, or whatever septic system association, whatever you wanna call it.
Right.
That says you are responsible for operation, maintenance, replacement, basically what it says in
Yeah.
grant of an easement,
Right.
check
Yeah.
all the boxes, for this, regardless of fault claims or anything else. One or the other, because the question you have, you always have the problem is, okay, if you do have two separate properties, and one guy says, I'm not chicken in, that's his fault.
Right.
I'm only there 2 weeks of the year, or I'm only there,
Right, right,
why would
right.
why would I have to do it,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really designed, from the public health, point of view, that if, the system failed and someone, and one of the contributors says, I don't want to pay in, or I can't pay in, I don't have the money, to replace the system, then, you're creating this public health problem, because it's like, okay, well, you have to vacate the house, you don't have a working septic system.
Right.
So this is kind of saying the money's there, the board can just access that money and say, okay, if you don't wanna, if you don't wanna do it, then we're gonna make sure that everyone has a pot to piss in.
Well, that's what I mean, if you do a homeowner association with a bond, and it
Yeah.
like takes care of the problem, and it also notifies any future owner that, hey, you're 50% on the hook for whatever,
Right,
at
right.
least 50% for whatever happens.
Yeah,
Or up to 100% for that matter,
Right, right. Yeah, no, I mean,
Okay.
it's in septic system concept, but it's just like what condos do for the roof.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that kind of thing.
Okay.
But usually they just have insurance policies, that kind of stuff.
Well, it's
for
easier
some
for
things.
condos because they
Yeah.
have condo documents that state
Right.
you are
Right,
responsible
right, right,
for.
who's responsible, right, for this kind of stuff. Okay, so, so if you wanna go that route, I guess, that we can do it in just saying, that it doesn't sound like, we're gonna kinda get to this, like in the first couple of weeks of the new year, right, we'll start to,
They're just concerned because
start to deal with it. I mean, I think it would be helpful to, start just putting the numbers together and for us to look at it. Like, here's the, the O&M cost, and, then here's the, I guess it's mostly, for the replacement of the denitrification system, and then I don't know to what extent, there's not a lot of huge plumbing in this, it's not like.
No, it's usually, the O&M is the easy part. That's
Yeah, right.
That's kind of a fixed cost. It's like,
Right.
who knows what's gonna go wrong? I mean, pump goes wrong here, or
Right,
visit.
right, yeah, and then, yeah, so, and I, don't know if there's, anyway, so I think that would be a place to start, and we can go back and look at what we did in that other
Mhm.
case and, provide you some guidance too, based on that.
Yeah, because they're just trying to kind
Yeah.
of wrap it all up, basically.
Okay.
They're not looking for an occupancy permit anytime in the near future, but I just didn't wanna wait
Yeah.
till 2 weeks before the occupancy, like, okay, here I am, what do we got?
Right, okay,
Okay,
all right,
great, thanks.
Thank
Have a
you.
good Christmas, everyone and all.
yes.
Two.
All right. Okay, so,
Any more business?
no more business.
Okay, being there no more business, I move that we adjourn this meeting at 5:16 PM.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.